5-year contract. It's just, I bring it up only because who cares, Scott? It's just Jaren Jackson Jr., good player, don't get me wrong, $50 million a year. You know, we all bitch and complain about the Juan Soto deals and the Ohtani deals, and you get guys like Jaren Jackson making $50 million a year.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
There's now 7 different directors of analytics for like the Raptors, the Chiefs, where you can see us all like workshopping these ideas in these threads because golf is so ubiquitous amongst gamblers. And so that was like the most popular non-poker forum was the golf subforum. And then once we started thinking about once I realized in 2013 that Brody's book was coming out, I just thought stroke chain putting was it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm saying I like their odds because I think they're insane at this point, but I do think they are a very viable option.
I don't even think their odds are that insane, honestly. They won 64 games.
So you like this move for them?
Well, so the odds...
Regardless of the odds, just from basketball.
Yeah, the odds have nothing to do with it. They won 64 games. They were eliminated by the Pacers, who lost Halliburton. The other 60-win team was the Celtics, and they lost Tatum. Like I think,
and the Knicks don't have a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
You want to take that gap year and trade LeBron James somewhere and get value, legitimate value for a 41-year-old player, LeBron James, I still think, in return. I think you have to explore that because if LeBron wants to win a title, we've heard so much buzz for, I think, 3 or 4 years now, Kevin, about Stephen Curry and LeBron James wanting to eventually play together. This might be that moment here. If you're the Golden State Warriors, why not make that call? I think that's something to watch out for.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Is Bradley Beal about to join Kevin Durant out the door in Phoenix? Plus, could there actually be a UFC fight on the White House lawn? Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, presented by Atlassian. From FOS Studios here in New York City, I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and hopefully you guys had a great holiday weekend. We thank you for joining us each and every weekday as we're chatting the biggest stories happening in the business and culture of sports. We're also talking to the agents who scored one of the largest fully guaranteed NIL agreements in college football history. But first, let's dive right into the shoot-around.
Yeah, and let's start in baseball as the MLB draft just a few days away and the Washington Nationals on the clock with the #1 pick. But now, Renee, they got to find a new GM as the team fired longtime exec Mike Rizzo and the manager Dave Martinez, both of whom won the World Series with the club back in 2019. And the Nats did promote assistant GM Mike DiBartolo to run the club, this on an interim basis. We got to think just a few days before the draft, this is a big deal.
Yeah, and the Nationals released a statement. They wanted a fresh approach, new energy. And when you look since that 2019 World Series title, the last 6 seasons, they've had 6 total days where they were above 500. They've lost top talent, Juan Soto, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner. They've also struggled to develop their draft and development pipeline, their farm system. And then on top of that, they're on track for their second 100-loss season in 4 years. So when you look at just the direction they're going with the Major League Baseball draft coming up, with the trade deadline, with the All-Star game and young talent like James Wood and Mackenzie Gore, I think the timing is now to pivot for them as they need to get on track and see if they can salvage the rest of this season.
Meanwhile, tickets for FIFA's Club World Cup semifinal between Chelsea and Fluminense on Tuesday at MetLife Stadium, the prices fell from $473 apiece to just $13. This over a course of 72 hours, according to The Athletic. The outlet also says FIFA's volunteers for tournaments had received emails offering them 4 complimentary tickets to the quarterfinal matches, with the exception of Real Madrid's game against Borussia Dortmund at MetLife as well, which begs the question, we see all these empty stadiums, was this even a good tournament then?
Well, FIFA has not commented on what the protocol is around those complimentary tickets and if it's real or not, but we do wonder, like, were they there in just regular clothes?
Right.
They blended in with fans. There has been such a fluctuating attendance numbers that we've seen. It's been around on average 35,000, but MetLife Stadium's had 5 different matches. One of those, this past Saturday's quarterfinal game, was the highest across Club World Cup, and then you fast forward to the semifinal, and they're selling tickets for cheaper than a cheesesteak price. So it's been up and down. They haven't found the winning formula, but it is concerning, especially on the heels of what's going to be an exciting summer of soccer next year, of how they can pack these stadiums across the United States.
Yeah, for those who have been to MetLife Stadium, you can't even get a beer or a hot hot dog for $13,
Correct.
let alone tickets to an event there. Meanwhile, the WNBA's All-Star Game just a few weeks away on July the 19th, and the player payouts, another source of contention during the ongoing CBA talks with the league, as players receive just $2,575 of a bonus, regardless if they're a starter or if their team wins the game. And Renee, the All-Star MVP, they just earn $5,000 as a bonus, and the winner of the three-point and skills competition, they just get $2,500 from the league.
And the league has a partnership with AFLAC, which pays 20 times more than what the WNBA pays. Those numbers you just shared are the WNBA payout numbers. AFLAC, on the other hand, paying a lot more. $60,000 for three-point contest winner, $55,000 for the winner of the skills challenge, which is why last year Alicia Gray of the Atlanta Dream was able to make $115,000, and that was almost the same amount as her entire 2024 salary of $185,000, excuse me. So in comparison to the NBA, for example, they have a higher percentage of that 2.1% compared to the NBA's 1.35. But of course, the NBA with a $9 million average salary, their All-Star Game winners make $125,000, which is more than the average salary of the WNBA altogether. So some numbers that Neko Ogwumike and the WNBPA have said, we've got to address these, and this is absolutely a talking point for them moving forward around revenue share and how they can build across the board.
And of course, that deadline for their new CBA expires on October the 31st. Well, after trading Kevin Durant, the Suns seem to be moving on from another star, as Mark Stein is reporting that the team will likely buy out the remaining $110 million of Bradley Beal's contract, similar to what the Bucks just did with Damian Lillard. So how might this buyout work, and who might Bradley Beal end up signing with? Let's take a look in our main event. And let's bring in Colin Salau, front office sports reporter, for more on this. Colin, so break down how this thing with Bradley Beal might play out here.
Yeah, so Beal has 2 years, $110 million left in this contract, which, you know, has been very infamous. A 5-year, $251 million deal originally. And essentially the Suns have the option to buy him out if Beal is willing. But they can also stretch and waive him the same way that the Bucks did with Damian Lillard. But in order to do that, a couple of cap experts have said that that Beal needs to give up about $14 million because of specific rules where only 15% where a stretch salary has to be at least 15% of the cap, or only 15% of the cap. So Beal will essentially need to give up $14 million, though he could make up that money or that sum in free agency, at least a portion of it, which is similar to what DeAndre Ayton did with the Blazers and the Lakers, right? He signed an $8.1 million deal with the Lakers under the mid-level exception, and he's now going to make a total of $34 million with the Blazers and the Lakers. And he had $35 million left in his deal originally. So he essentially made up that money with the Lakers. That's probably what Beal's going to end up getting, at least a portion of it, with whichever team he chooses to sign in free agency, assuming this all happens.
Colin, this offseason, we've seen a lot of changes to how roster construction is happening. Of course, for the first time ever in NBA history, a 17 trade has been conducted to allow for Kevin Durant, as well as 13 total players, 7 draft picks, cash. A lot has been moved involving teams like the Lakers, the Timberwolves, the Warriors, the Nets, Suns, Rockets, Hawks. With trades kind of being the priority right now across the NBA, how does this kind of paint a bigger picture, maybe issue or talking point around the salary cap and trades, and how the NBA has to make these trades happen for a player like Kevin Durant?
Yeah, it's really all about this new CBA, right? Not only in terms of managing the salary cap, but also in terms of timings, right? July 6th was this trade was, I think, facilitated or agreed upon last week or over a week ago, but there was a certain clause in Jalen Green's contract that made it so that they had to wait. And so teams are like, okay, well, how can we kind of make sure that we get the most out of this deal? Maybe we could just do all our other deals combined and make sure it all runs together at the same time, because we can't make this trade with Team X until Team Y waits for July 6th. And so they need to kind of run it all by each other all together. And to your point, like, it really just shows the behind the scenes, just how intricate these details are, and the collateral impact of signing something in the CBA this complicated.
Colin, in the 90 seconds we have left with you, one other trade that hasn't been finalized yet would have been Jonas Valanciunas leaving the Sacramento Kings to the Denver Nuggets. But reportedly, according to Mark Stein, Valanciunas is looking at a deal maybe to go to Greece. He would then have to buy out his contract. So what's going to happen here? Will the Nuggets actually get a good backup center for Nikola Jokic, or will Valanciunas go to Greece?
You know, it's very interesting, especially when you talk about these European players. I get reminded about Nikola Mirotic previously, years back, choosing to go to Europe instead of staying. And as someone who didn't grow up in the U.S. myself, that's something that there's a personal level to that, right? Like, you can have $10 million and face paying that. But if that means, being able to go home, he's not from Greece, but like being able to go home to my continent and be there and play there, especially at an older age, that could be playing a factor. Now, ultimately, $10 million is $10 million, so we'll see if that really happens. But that does put the Nuggets kind of in a bind, right? But it's not the first time we see kind of these interesting happenings in the NBA where you find a deal, you think it's set, and now you have to pivot. Just look back at the trade deadline. The Lakers traded for Mark Williams, and then it all turned around because and they had to pivot, and ultimately it bit them in the butt when it came to the playoffs. It might bite the Nuggets in the butt, but who knows? Maybe they get Bradley Beal to make it feel a little better.
That would be.
Yeah, what we're seeing is definitely not new, but it feels like we're just seeing more of it, or maybe even just more publicly discussed around these trades and offseason movement.
Yeah, and Valanciunas, according to the Nuggets, they expect him to be with the team. Colin Sal, thank you so much, Colin, for joining us. And still ahead, guys, we're taking you inside one of the largest fully guaranteed NIL agreements in college football history. We're talking to those agents right after this quick break when Front Office Sports Today returns.
Let's get down to business with the particulars. The Pittsburgh Steelers will get Jalen Ramsey into their defensive backfield. They'll get Jonnu Smith.
All this talk I'm hearing about they're going to trade TJ Watt, that's not happening either. Okay, so I don't think that's even remotely in the cards. All this talk today, he's next. I don't believe that. I think they're going to give him a new deal.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
9 times out of 100, when you get a gift for the boys in Vegas, what happens? The dude doesn't even get out of the first inning. I feel bad for him. He gave up 7 runs, 5 earned, but 7 runs in total, 5 hits, walked 2, didn't strike out a batter, and like I said, didn't get out of the first inning, got 1 out. I don't know how they do, Joe, but I'm telling you, those lines didn't make any sense.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Devin Booker had to run the point when Chris Paul was hurt. And we're like, Devin Booker's a point guard. Devin Booker's not a point guard. Neither is Jalen Green. So I need to know what to get rid of Bradley Beal, who cannot be on that team, who is the point guard, and then I think as a 6th man, I actually don't mind it with Jalen Green.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
What is going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
How about I answer your question with a question, Kev?
Okay.
What could possibly go wrong?
I would say it's possible that you somehow, in bringing in Aaron Rodgers, which is supposed to be a win-now move, look around at your team and go, wait, Pickens, Minka Fitzpatrick, and TJ Watt aren't on it anymore?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado, and some big college football news to get to. As a 5-star offensive tackle, Felix Ocho has committed to Texas Tech and was believed to be a historic 7-figure deal, believed to be one of the largest fully guaranteed revenue-sharing agreements in college football history, which is incredible. So let's bring in the agents that made this all happen, Rashard Phillips and Derek Shelby from Prestige Management Group. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us. Rashad, let's start with you. Could you confirm the specifics of this deal? It's reported to be about $5.1 million over 3 years.
Sounds about accurate to me. We're very excited to have a wonderful kid and a wonderful family to be able to work with and put him in a situation to go out and play the game that he loves and become a great student athlete at Texas Tech University.
And honestly, it's so fantastic to see the great clientele you guys work with. We were talking about Nyjah Kennedy on her run of the College World Series in softball for Texas Tech. We were talking about Felix with his deal. What really goes into these historic deals for you guys at Prestige Management to help these athletes set these unprecedented historic record NIL deals?
Yeah, when looking to bring on these types of athletes that we have access to, it's important to kind of forecast who they are and what their abilities are. And then, the numbers part of it is all about the negotiation. But if they do their job, we'll do our job,
Did you guys have an existing relationship with Texas Tech? Because we know the Matador Club specifically is throwing tons of money in their NIL collectives. But the fact that you guys have scored record deals for a lot of clients at this specific university, I think is a big deal.
I'm based in Dallas, right? So I'm in the area a lot. I know how Texas Tech fans are. It's their professional sports there, so prior to Nyjah, I did know some people there. A friend of mine is the GM for the basketball team there. So I kind of knew where some of the bodies were buried out there. So we were able to leverage some of those relationships to help us with these deals.
When you look at those relationships, like the one you have, the existing one with Texas Tech, how do you help your athletes prioritize in terms of the best fit? Sports, academics, NIL opportunities. Rashad, I'll jump this question over to you. What do you guys prioritize in securing these NIL deals when you're helping your athletes?
Well, I think what Derek said is that we kind of do our homework really early. In this space that we're in as managers, you have to be able to forecast. You have to be able to study the kid and understand where they will fit and where they'll find their most success. Fortunately for us, the two kids that we have helped that's getting a lot of the notoriety, it's been Texas Tech. We felt like on the softball side with Nyjah, we really loved what the program was, where the program was heading. They had a terrific coaching staff, and they talked to us about allowing Nyjah to play offense and hit the ball. So we that in itself led us to really honing in on that school. And then when you look on the football side with Felix, you look at how teams are trending and where they're going. If you look at the success of Texas Tech over the last year or two, you can see that they're trending in the right direction. They just had a running back drafted in the 3rd round this upcoming draft, and we feel that the most important part of football is what you do in the trenches. So we feel like Felix was the best offensive lineman in the country, and we felt like Texas Tech needed a guy of his caliber, and that's why we placed him there.
This still feels like the Wild West of how these deals are going down, especially for a lot of these college athletes to get these kinds of deals. What advice do you have for college athletes to navigate this environment, and how do they go about finding agents and managers like you to make these deals happen?
Well, man, I think it's easier said than done, right? Everybody who has a high-level, high-elite athlete should have management. Because with NCAA rules changing every 5 minutes, it's kind of hard to keep track of what's going on. So having someone who's educated in this space is going to be extremely helpful and beneficial for every kid and every family who has to navigate it. These rules are changing daily. The rules changed overnight in June when the House settlement was signed. So if you were not prepared for that, you are behind already. So being able to not only forecast as athletes, but being able to forecast NCAA rules is a job by itself.
Well, let's talk more about that, because from last summer when Nyjah had her historic $1 million plus deal with Texas Tech to transfer over to this season with Felix, massive change in that House settlement. How has NIL versus revenue sharing and really the gaps you guys look to, the gaps in the areas that you guys look to work around, how does that change for you guys in the NIL landscape? What does that look like now after the House settlement in terms of the deals you're negotiating?
That's a good question, because what a lot of schools are going to do is they're going to use that House settlement cap to lower the numbers. We've seen that with Felix. Some numbers went down overnight based on the House settlement. And I understand that. When you only have 20.5 million that you can spend, football is going to probably get an average of 16 of that million. And there's 105 players, right? So you have to really, really have a good GM and a good staff to really be able to manage that money. So a lot of the numbers will go down. In Felix's case, Tech stayed the same. So he did not lose anything overnight with the house settlement, and that eventually won out for Felix.
Guys, we have about 60 seconds left with you. Rashad, I'd like to end this with you. Tell us a little bit about how you guys at Prestige Management came to be. How did you guys create this company?
Well, that's a great question. So me and Derek, we have been kind of doing this for the last 30, 40 years before we put a name on it and a ribbon on it. This is something that holds dear to our hearts. We love to help. We love to be service of others. And when you look at my personal story, I was a All-American in college, basketball All-American. I was a Naismith Award winner. And I didn't get anything from NIL or any of that stuff, and I didn't have the right representation. So for me, it's really endeared in my heart to be able to help these kids and maximize that. So me and Derek, we actually put our brains together and said, hey, let's put a name to what we already been doing for years, and we came up with Prestige Management.
Wow.
Well, congratulations, guys, on all the success that you're having. And by the way, this is probably just the first of many, many, many more exciting deals to come. Rashad Jennings and Derek Shelby from Prestige Management Group, thank you guys so very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And coming up next, guys, on Front Office Sports Today, can there actually be a UFC fight on the White House lawn? We're going into that next. Don't go anywhere.
Lonzo Ball, I guess, Chicago, they've just, kind of had enough here. Traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. What do you make of him being healthy? You think there's a chance? I mean, that's kind of the key.
What you said with all these guys re-signing kind of speaks to the landscape of free agents this year. Most of the guys, there isn't that much money out there to be had. I think the Nets are the only team that actually have cap space and can sign anybody outright.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
You got swept by the Marlins. You got some issues here. They're struggling. Arizona having their issues as well here. What I want to see here is Arizona take the lead. All right, and then let's attack the Diamondbacks bullpen. That bullpen is horrific. It's a dumpster fire. All right, that bullpen is that bad. Hit it a couple times over the weekend. Once they're up, hit the bullpen. That bullpen's going to blow the game. That's a great in-game bet for the against the Diamondbacks.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I will keel over if they trade LeBron James to anyone. He is not leaving Los Angeles with all of his entertainment company, production studios, movies, TV shows, podcasts, everything that he does. This guy is stuck there like glue for the rest of his life. He's not leaving Los Angeles even when he's done playing.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Incredible run here for Suarez, but realistically speaking, Corbin Burns out, Corbin Carroll is out right now. This is not a contending team, especially in that division where you've got the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants. It's just too much to bear. The Diamondbacks would be smart to let Jordan Lawler play every day, see what he is, and then probably move on from Suarez.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today, presented by Atlassian. Atlassian Williams Racing brings two teamwork powerhouses together around a single goal: unleash the full potential of a legendary F1 race team. From the pit lane to the podium, Atlassian software transforms teamwork and makes possible together what would be impossible alone. So UFC and Dana White plan to host an unprecedented fight on the White House lawn, with President Trump saying he would like this to happen on July 4th, 2026. This would be honoring America's 250th birthday, and this would be in front of about 20 to 25,000 fans, this according to the president. So let's bring in FOS reporter Eric Fisher for more. Eric, what do we know so far about this?
Not a ton as of yet. No real details in terms of who's going to be on the fight card, how security is going to work in this, obviously highly sensitive location, how ticketing is going to work, any of that sort of thing. But conversations are definitely happening between the White House and UFC. To make this happen. I had a chance to speak with UFC a few hours ago, and they confirmed those conversations are happening, and they've got about a year to make this go. They've been in unique locations before, such as the Sphere. Certainly wouldn't count against Dana White logistically, but in terms of what there is yet, we just don't know.
Very interesting, because we also have under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that there's $1.6 billion that's going to be going towards Los Angeles in terms of federal funding for the Olympics and the World Cup next summer. I'm curious to your thoughts on, since the White House has never had a sporting event that it's hosted, why now does it seem like, these sports and politics overlaps are happening in such a big way?
Well, we've had plenty of sports fans in the White House before, but I think there's a pretty good case to be made that Donald Trump has been using sports like nothing before. Now, keep in mind, there's quite a lot of origin story throughout his own political rise, that not becoming an NFL team owner has been directly tied to his decision to go into politics and rise to obviously where he now is. But he's gone to sporting events for many, many years. He used to be a USFL team owner close to 40 years ago. More than 40 years ago. So sports has been directly intertwined with his business life and his political life for decades. And so the fact that we now have a situation where the White House is directly intertwined with not only what we're talking about with the UFC, but these other major upcoming international events that are going to be held in the U.S., that's no surprise, because this is a big political platform for him in terms of his own brand, his own political messaging. And in the case of USC specifically, being as tied as he is to that property was a big part of him connecting with young males, which was a big part of his electorate last fall.
Eric, do we have any idea who might fight in this? I know Conor McGregor has been a name that has been speculated a lot, but you would think if the White House is going to have this big of an event on this big occasion on this day, they would want a big name like Conor McGregor to be a part of it.
Yeah, certainly. And we'll see how this flows. We're a year out, and they, have events every month or so. So we'll see where we are at the top of the weight classes by that point. But I would imagine that, and this falls on a Saturday next year, which is a typical fight day for UFC. So I would imagine beyond a big name like that, whoever your top champions and contenders are at the various weight classes, I would expect them to be part of this event at that point, and they would try to flow into the normal UFC competitive cadence as much as possible.
All right, Eric Fisher, front office sports reporter for us. Eric, thank you so very much. And let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, Renee, drama over at Wimbledon as the electronic line calling technology that replaced line judges for the first time in Wimbledon's 148-year history malfunctioned at a critical point over the weekend, in which Britain's Sonay Qatar hit a backhand that clearly bounced out, which would have given the point and the game to Russia's Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova. But because of the technical error, that set had to be replayed, and Kartal won the relay point and the game, but Pavlyuchenkova ended up winning the match at the end of the day. But either way, this could have been a major, major, major drama here.
Yeah, I know Pavlyuchenkova mentioned preferential treatment and was not happy about it. And then also to hear for a spokesperson from All England's Lawn Tennis Club come out and say, oops, it was off, and actually missed 3 calls that were not picked up by the ALC. That's concerning, because I guess we haven't learned from movies like Eagle Eye and iRobot. Technology is not always the answer, and it makes me wonder things like robo-umps, NFL's Hawkeye system. Like, how does technology is supposed to alleviate and minimize the mistakes of human error? It has its own set of dysfunctional errors as well. check your phone or laptop. They all the time malfunction.
And look, tennis has always
Concerning.
been at the forefront of this technology and
Yes.
it's doing really well, but here was clearly a moment that it didn't at all. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. We'll be back for a lot more fun on Front Office Sports tomorrow. We'll see you next time.